So in this video, I'm working on introducing Go Sniff as a reinforcement cue for Guava and putting Go Sniff under stimulus control. So we're starting here with this little up-down game. This is just where I put the treat on the floor and then she's supposed to look straight back up at me. And that's just a nice way to kind of gauge her ability to focus before we start walking. And what I'm doing here is I'm approaching a place where I think she'll want to sniff. And for her, that's going to be where the shelves have gaps between the merchandise. And you'll see she actually crawls all the way in there. She's super intrigued by these spaces. So what I am doing is I'm stopping, getting her attention, giving her a treat for that attention, and then releasing her to go and sniff. And then we go back into this up-down game. And this is teaching her that the way to gain access to the places that you want to go and sniff is to pay attention to me and stay with me. And then I will give you access to those spaces. And this is going to be helpful both in kind of getting another reinforcement cue in our tool belt so that we can use Go Sniff as a reinforcer, and in kind of teaching her not to just veer off and go and sniff when I haven't given her permission to. So again, here we just take a couple of steps and I'm varying how far we're walking, and I'm just doing that by picking different landmarks I'm going to walk to rather than counting steps or anything like that. I don't want it to become we take one step and then two and then 10 and then 20, because a lot of times they'll start to anticipate that. I want it to be pretty random. So I'm picking specific spots that I see ahead of me that I'm going to release her to go and sniff, as opposed to picking an equal distance every time. And then we go back into our up-down game here after she comes back. And that's just to teach her to come back after the sniff and reorient towards me. I want to make sure that it's easy also for us to get her back from sniffing so that she doesn't go off to sniff and then think that work is all done. Sometimes the release to sniff means work is all done, and I typically use my body language to communicate that to her. So if I tell her to go sniff and then I loosen my arms and I give her the full length of the leash and I start walking, that means you don't actually have to come back and check in with me. We're on a sniff walk now. Go do whatever you want. Whereas if I tell her to go sniff and then I'm just standing there, that means go sniff and then come check back in with me, and I'll reinforce that. And eventually it'll mean go sniff, come check back in with me, and we're going to keep walking. And that actually I will show later in this session. And then eventually we will alternate between sometimes when she comes back, she gets reinforcement. Sometimes we just keep walking. So again, doing the same thing here. And this time we've already walked up and down this aisle before, but each time we're going a little bit further, because novel spaces are going to be more intriguing to sniff. So we get the pattern down and then we walk a little further down the aisle, and she has to practice a little bit more self-control when we're getting further down that aisle because there's things she hasn't sniffed yet. And so I make sure that we kind of get that pattern down, and then we walk a little bit further down the aisle, and every time we go out and back, we walk a little bit further. And in future sessions, we'll actually turn the corner and then go into a different aisle as well, and then hopefully be able to turn around and circle and come all the way back. Now I'm going to stop the voiceover for a little bit, so on my way back, you can hear my cue timing. And jumping in really quick to say right there, she went off to sniff something else. And I really quick cued her to come over and sniff next to me. And then here she goes back, tries to go to sniff this other spot. And I just prevent her from doing that on the leash, call her back to me, have her sit, and then I let her go in here to go sniff this spot. And that's when I realized that there's actually someone else on the other side of the aisle, and she was trying to crawl through to go say hi. So I do pull her back with the leash because I can't have her crawling through to the other aisle and probably scaring somebody pretty badly when she pops out. And I make sure to give her this big social reward when I do pull her back on the leash. So we take a little petting break here, and then we'll head back on our way. So here you're gonna see her move off to sniff without the cue, and I use her name and then a little kissy noise and then some little just snapping to get her attention and bring her back to me. And watching it back, probably I should have done more of like an excited, happy noise. And she probably would have had an easier time disengaging for that. I was just trying to make kind of a distraction noise there because I wanted to circle back around, bring her back, and then let her go and sniff it. She did look off down the aisle there. That is because another dog had walked past us. So I'm really happy with how she dealt with it. She just looked at them and then looked back at me, and that dog was scrambling and pulling towards her. So she did great. I think potentially she had caught the scent of that dog as it was coming near us, and that's why she had such a hard time moving back to me off of the sniff. And then here we have some people passing by, so I go ahead and we stand there for a second. I let her watch them pass and then reinforce her for when she checks back in with me. This looks really nice too. So I get a few more repetitions of that, and then I'm gonna go into working on her downstay just to give a little break from being in motion for a little bit. Down. Good girl. Then here working on some distraction of me doing stuff while she holds that down. So picking stuff up, especially bending over, she struggles with. So I bend down just a little bit and then I get back up just to kind of mildly introduce that distraction for her and then come back and reinforce. Oh, we'll get it. And then here I ask her to lay down, and I'd noticed on the down before she was a little bit slow. I didn't love her body language. And then there I asked her to lay down and she turned and looked away. And so what I did here was I actually gave her a different cue for down, which was fold, which is something I've never used for a verbal cue before. And then I used my hand target into the down, which is what we do when we practice our little go down and pop up game. And she went down with much better body language there. So I think maybe that down cue has been poisoned for her a little bit. I'm not sure how, but it does happen. And so I think maybe going forward, we're going to use a different cue for that. And I'm going to use probably that hand target down. She seems just across the board to have better body language when I ask her for that hand target down instead. And then we go back to our walking and go sniff. And then here somebody's coming towards us with a cart. So I stand, I let her watch, and then I redirect her to go sniff as soon as they pass. Really, really happy with how she's doing with environmental distractions like that. That was a big, loud one of the not regular shopping carts, but like hardware carts. And she did extremely well with it. No worry at all. She just kind of stands there. She doesn't move towards it. And she just watches it go past. And then we get back into our go sniff with movement. So there, if you noticed, she was looking at, but not moving off to go sniff. And you could see big temptation that she really wanted to go sniff that. So of course I went and released her to it. Then now we're getting a little bit of stress yawn here. And this is another session where we're about over 10 minutes. So she is starting to have better stamina for a little bit longer. And I always kind of push our session just a little bit past where she starts to lose her attention and focus a little bit. And that is to help build her stamina going forward. And then again here, I had her go into that sit and then a touch, and I don't have food on me at this point. So I put the treat pouch away before that last walk down the aisle. And the entire time I have not had food on me, and she has not been reinforced with food since I put that down. And so we're practicing here doing a little bit of our CGC, our down and stay, and then our down and recall. And then here reinforcing the stay with some social love-ins. Now, this is actually something that she loves, but you'll notice here after I give her this big hug, she kind of struggles to come back to me. I lose her immediately. And so just like the go sniff, I think this is something that will come in and specifically work on her being able to go from being snuggled into when we stop, she just comes straight back and pays attention to me from there. And so then I put her in a stay and do a recall, and I used just a hand touch to get her back with me. And then we do a nice excited recall to me, and then we run back to our treat pouch, and she gets a big jackpot reward for running through that whole little scenario without any food. I am super happy with this session. We will keep working on it. And I think the only thing that I will alter in the future is we're going to work on being able to come straight back from snuggles instead of moving off to sniff. And we're going to rename our down cue so that we are just using our shaped fold back down.